All right, I want to thank you all for coming this morning. What I thought we would do this morning is just go over, our daily numbers a little bit and then talk about the reopening phase. Obviously, as we start to pivot from the public health standpoint to reopening the economy standpoint, it's going to be very important. It's very important to businesses. It's very important to the community. And as you can see, our numbers have stabilized for the past couple of weeks. We're seeing now maybe 2 or 3 new positive cases per week, which is a good thing. So the criteria that we need to meet to be reopened that we're getting from Albany, from the governor's office, is being met on the Chemung County level anyway. But one of the things I think people don't understand is this is a regional plan. So Chemung County's numbers can be great, but if there's another county's numbers within our region that aren't great and they skew, the overall numbers the governor wants to see, then it can be detrimental for every county throughout the southern tier. So, the 12 guys, and first of all, I want to thank our partnering counties. They've done an excellent job. We've been working together over the last 2.5 weeks to come up with a plan so that we could meet the guidelines to reopening that were established by the governor. The CDC guidelines basically deal with the 14-day reopening phase, and what that is when you start with phase 1, you have to keep your hospitalizations, your deaths within a certain criteria to be able to move to phase 2. And if, say, you get to day 12 and you don't meet that criteria, you could get thrown all the way back to day 1 and start over again. So, that's what's important for the public to realize. That's what's important for the businesses to realize. And, some of these guidelines, they take some work. The testing regimen, the tracing systems, regional coordination. So, we've been working on all of these items in order to have the southern tier be able to open, because when you look at the overall numbers, the southern tier's numbers are just as good or better than the central region where Onondaga County is. So we have some of the best regional numbers in the state. We were contacted by the governor's office, and I sat in on a conference call on Saturday. So we're hoping to get good news later today that the southern tier will be one of the regions that's eligible to open on May 15th, which is this Friday. So we'll be hopeful for that call, hopefully within the next hour. In partnering with our regional counties, obviously because of the world we're living in today, everything's done by conference call. You can't meet in person, so it's call after call. But you have to remember the counties that comprise the southern tier region for the purpose of the governor's reopening are Steuben, Schuyler, Tompkins, Tioga, Broome, Shenango, and Delaware. So if we were to have a cluster or a spike all the way east in Delaware County and say it just skewed the numbers to the point where we didn't meet the governor's criteria, all 8 of these counties have to close down, not just Delaware County. So that's why it's so important that we work regionally as a team. And the same thing, if we were to have a big spike in Steuben County and it skewed the numbers to the point where we couldn't meet the criteria set by the governor, all the other 7 counties have to close. So it really is a team effort, and it really is teamwork that has to facilitate in order to make this work. Another problem we had to worry about is when you look at the northern tier of Pennsylvania. So these 5 counties all border southern tier region. So we want to make sure that those 5 counties in the northern tier don't have high numbers that are going to affiliate or affect the numbers we're having in the southern tier. So, but for instance, they have a different system, but I see they moved to yellow last Friday. So I went down to Sayre and Athens last Friday, took a look around. A lot of people not wearing masks. A lot of the businesses are open. So, they really take a different view on, they're doing things different already. They're a week ahead of us. But you know what, their protocols are a little different. But again, a spike in any of these counties could go right across the border because, people in New York shop in Pennsylvania and vice versa. So we just have to be cognizant that, those 5 counties can also affect our numbers. So we're working on that as well. And you have to remember, this is a daily task. The numbers change every day. So, we have to be in contact with not only our member counties, but we have to be in contact with what's happened in the 5 counties in Pennsylvania that border. So, there's a lot of work that's been put into this over the last couple of weeks with all the counties involved, so I thank them. And the reopening process, as the governor has explained, comes in 4 phases. So, what we're hoping on Friday is that construction, manufacturing, and select retail curbside pickup would be opened up. So that would be our phase 1. Phase 1 would go for 14 days before you could move to phase 2. But what you have to remember within that 14-day period, again, if, say, we have a spike in hospitalizations that puts us above the governor's threshold, then we could move all the way back to day 1, and we could have been in day 12. So to move from each phase, you have to have 14 days of compliant numbers with the threshold set by New York State. And you can see in phase 2, it'd be professional services and finance and insurance, administrative support and so forth. So again, and the governor's office will give more definitive information on what it's going to take. So for instance, businesses are supposed to be putting plans together. We asked them a couple of weeks ago, if you have a business, start putting your plan together, because when the governor does turn the faucet on slowly, you're going to want to make sure that you have a business plan. So you can go to our website. I think you can go to the IDA's website, and you can see, it doesn't tell you specifically because it depends on your type of business, but it does give you generalizations as to what your plan should look like. Plans are not going to be filed with the state, we're being told. Plans will stay here on the local level. You would have the plan at your place of business. It's going to have to be visibly posted where the public can see it and so forth. So, I mean, depending on the type of business you have, you're going to tailor your plan to that business. We see under phase 3 is restaurants and food services and hotels and so forth. So, I mean, we really need to start to get the economy open again. The numbers here in the southern tier in Chemung County tell us, yes, it's time. People have been very patient. Business owners have been very patient. But our numbers with where they're at, there's no reason that we shouldn't slowly start to open up this economy, because I believe we can do it safely. And again, it's a process. It's going to need everybody's help. So when you're getting your business plans ready, so I mean, whether you have a barber shop or whether you have a restaurant, regardless of your type of business, these are the types of things you need to get ready for. Adjust workplace hours and shift design as necessary to reduce the density in the workplace. As few people as you can have there. I mean, I've heard from a lot of businesses, and even right here in county government, we're looking at, you know what, maybe there are some jobs that can be done from home. Maybe 4 days a week you work at home and 1 day you come to the office. So I think you're going to see a lot of that happen across the private sector and across the government sector. Social distancing protocols, they're always good. You have to remember, if you have a business where you're waiting on customers and there's a counter, you've got to wear the proper face mask. Restrict non-essential travel for employees. Do you have employees that would normally travel to areas that were hard hit by coronavirus? So if you have folks that normally travel to New York City within your business, that's probably something you're going to want to look at and say, ooh, until further notice, we're not going to do that. That's going to be a teleconference. That's going to be a video conference. The different ways that you can handle that. Require all employees and customers to wear a mask if in frequent contact with others, or 6-foot social distancing cannot be maintained. And remember the social distancing rule. What the governor has said is if you cannot remain 6 foot away from other people, then you should be wearing a mask. Implement strict cleaning and sanitation standards. Every business is going to want to be doing this, and there's the protocols of how to do this are on the county's website. They're on the IDA's website. I'm sure you can find them on the CDC and other websites. Continuous health screening process for individuals that enter the workplace. Some businesses might want to go as far as doing temperature checks. But remember, if somebody's sick, we want the businesses to tell them, don't come to work. If you don't feel good, then don't come to work, because that's when we spread not only the common cold, but the coronavirus to others. Tracing and tracking and reporting cases is going to be very important. The governor's made that clear. That's why each region will be responsible for securing that data and sending it to one location point where everybody can take a look at it, and develop liability processes. This is a regional process. And it's going to start with the neighborhoods and move outward. So, for instance, we get lots of complaints. Lots of complaints came in 2 weekends ago, barbecues, birthday parties. Look, we don't have the resources to break up barbecues and birthday parties at people's houses, so everybody just has to use their own common sense. And this is neighbors reporting neighbors. Think about that. So, again, this regional process, we have to police ourselves, because you know what? We're the ones that can ruin it for ourselves. So if we were to have a spike in Chemung County, not only could the governor say, okay, you don't move on to the next phase, that means the other 7 counties can't move on to the next phase. So the residents in each county have to, police themselves and make sure we're making smart decisions. Does everybody want to wear a face mask? No, they don't. We understand that. But for right now, that's what's showing, that's, cutting down on the numbers. So that's what we do. Regions must experience a 14-day decline in hospitalizations and deaths on a 3-day rolling average. Regions with few COVID cases cannot exceed 15 new total cases or 5 new deaths in a 3-day rolling average. A region must have fewer than 2 new COVID patients admitted per 100,000 residents per day. So, I mean, these are the types of guidelines that each of these 8 counties throughout the southern tier have to meet. If we don't meet these guidelines, all 8 counties could go back to step 1. So, I mean, again, when we talk about it starts in the neighborhood, what we're saying is it starts right here in your neighborhood and works its way outward. We know graduation ceremonies are coming up. We're not sure at this time whether they'll be virtual or whether they're going to allow what type of graduation ceremonies. I know all the school districts are putting plans together that we can forward to the state and see if they'll be approved or not. But it's just too early to know that, because to be honest with you, if you go back to the phases, it looks like graduations would really fall within phase 4. And would graduation time, would the ceremonies be over by the time we get to phase 4? So, I mean, there's so many questions out there that haven't been answered. And the actual process is, so you go back to the business plans, although we gave an idea of this is good to have in the business plans, the governor's office will tell the businesses exactly what need to be in the plan. So say it's a beauty shop and you have to wear a mask, you have to have a shield, those types of differences, when they get filtered down to that point, I'm sure that we'll get further guidance from Albany to share with these businesses. So, I mean, it's all about a smart start is what we're calling it, and we want to make sure that everybody understands that this isn't everything gets turned on at one time. It's in phases. It's in 14-day phases. So each phase, lasts 14 days. And you have to be successful in the first phase and meet the benchmark sent by the governors before you move to the next phase. So I think today it's a good day to know that, you know what, it looks like Friday will be our day in the southern tier and with our other partner 7 counties to reopen for construction and manufacturing and some retail curbside pickup. We're anxiously awaiting the governor's news conference today to see exactly what he has to say about the counties who have achieved all the benchmarks that he set forth. So with that being said, I'll be more than happy to answer some questions if you have them.
So I was also in Pennsylvania this last weekend, seeing how all the businesses were opening up. But how will you guys be enforcing the CDC protocols? Are you having police going around, or
How are we enforcing them right now?
if we decide to open up businesses once we get to phase 2?
So, I mean, again, obviously, we don't have the health department officials, the law enforcement officials to send to every face mask violation. So, we ask folks, we ask the businesses, can you put a sign in your window requiring face masks and so forth. There are people who have medical conditions that can't wear the face mask. But again, are we going to go out and arrest people for not wearing a face mask? We just don't have the resources to do that. So we're going to ask everybody, you know what? Police yourselves. We want to make sure that we never have to take a step backward and it's forward from here on. So if everybody does that in all 8 counties, we should be in good shape.
Right, and you said they are posting their guidelines that they're going to have for CDC protocols. Will they have to submit each guideline to the county as well?
We haven't been given that direction this time. We have been told that they are not going to submit them to the state. We would rather that they do not submit them to the county either. What we were being told is that each business will have to come up with a plan, have that plan in-house, and have it conspicuously posted for the public. So say there's a complaint, you want to go by that business, let me see your 3-ring binder with your plan. The health department or law enforcement, whoever could go through it, make sure they have a plan, make sure that it's posted for the public, and make sure they're meeting the requirements set forth by the governor's office. So if it says you have to wear a mask doing this, you have to be so far apart. So whatever your plan for your particular business should include, just make sure that the plans are correct.
So go ahead.
So if you're not going to be necessarily going out and doing regular checks on businesses, but if somebody comes to you and say, hey, this business isn't following the guideline, then you'll drop in and do a surprise visit?
Well, my guess there will be regular checks. I mean, right now the health department does regular checks. So depending on when your restaurant was last, but yes, they're going to be adding businesses to it. But I'm sure there will be regular scheduled checks, and there will be ones that are fostered by complaints. So a lot of times, a lot of the complaints that the health department responds to are, phoned in or emailed in, or somebody sends a letter. So I think you'll see a hybrid of both. Because obviously we want to make sure everybody complies. Yes.
If you can just talk to me more about why you're confident about Friday.
Well, number one, like I said, we had the opportunity to speak with the governor's staff on a conference call on Saturday, and it indicated that the Southern Tier region appeared to meet all the threshold involving the statistical data that the governor's office was looking for. So, I mean, obviously, with that being said, that's what the governor wanted. We put together a plan with our 7 regional partners, making sure we meet all 12 of the criteria, which we also feel we have. So we're confident that we're ready to go on Friday.
Would you happen to know, just off the top of your head, how far the economy in the Chemung County region has been hit due to the COVID-19 pandemic?
I can tell you our sales tax receipts for last month were down over $1 million from the same period last year. So, I mean, that's substantial. I mean, if you look, if that's going to happen again for another month or so forth, I mean, we're looking at, obviously, we're looking at a substantial decrease in sales tax revenue, and that's the money that's used to provide the services. And, you know, and if Chemung County is, that means all the municipalities are as well, because they share in the sales tax revenues.
I just want to confirm, so if we do go into phase one on Friday, it's just going to be construction and, construction, curbside, pickup, and manufacturing that will reopen?
Construction, manufacturing, and some retail curbside pickup.
Do you know which ones?
We need to get that guidance from the governor's office, which I anticipate would be in the next day or two.
Okay.
Yep. All right, anybody think anything else? I mean, you know what, I think it's, you know, it's a good day for Chemung County, it's a good day for the southern tier. A lot of people have been, you know, anxiously awaiting this day, they've been patient. You know, we feel for them, the kids are at home, nobody can get outside, do what they want to do, so hopefully this is a giant step to, you know, to having somewhat of a summer. All right, I thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
I think the governor's on at 12 today, right?
Let me double check.
Anywhere from 11:30 to 12.
All right, good deal.